Discussion on static force analysis. Static force analysis of mechanisms. So yesterday we have taken a case of a slider crank mechanism. So this is O2 and this is linkage 2, this is linkage 3 and this is 4. I think I may be audible without the mic, then I will not use this because it's troubling. So a force P is applied, the piston. When a force is applied, this mechanism will accelerate or it will rotate. So to keep this in a static condition, we are applying a torque T, which is called the holding torque. So we apply the holding torque to keep this in a static condition. So I gave examples of holding torque yesterday so that you can recollect. Now what we have to do is have we have to draw the free body diagram of each linkage to analyze what are the forces which are acting on this. So if you take a free body diagram of the piston, then what are the forces which are acting on it? P. The piston is constrained by the ground. Without this ground, the piston will go down. So you can say that is a constraint. In a free body diagram, constraints are to be replaced by appropriate reactions. If I assume that there is no friction between the ground and the piston, you will have a force that is normal to the surface. If there is a friction, it will be inclined. Then this force is given by the notation. The force is applied by 1, that is the ground, on linkage 4. So it is called 1,4. Now there is one more constraint, which is the coupler, which is connected here, that will also impart a force. So that force will be acting on this body. That force is given by the notations applied by 3 on 4. So we have the 3 forces which are acting on this piston. Then if you try to draw the free body diagram of the linkage 3, that is a coupler. Then linkage 3, we will have the forces which are acting. The piston will give the reaction, that is F4, 3. Force applied by 4 on 3. Similarly here you will have a force that is applied by 2 on 3. But when an interaction is taking place between the two bodies, the forces can be transmitted as well as the moment can be transmitted. There can be a transfer of moments as well. see, when there is a connection between the piston and this, it can transmit force and a moment. When two parts are joined together, there is a possibility to transmit force and a moment. How? For example, I say this is the chair. I can apply a force as well I can apply a moment. Okay? So there are two bodies which are connected. The connection can transmit force as well as moment. So I can twist something and also push. So there is a possibility for a connection to transmit both forces and moments. But here I have drawn in the interaction between the coupler and this, I have indicated only the forces are transmitted, I have not indicated about the couples. Why? If you look at the pin joint or revolute joint, so the revolute joint can, when you apply, you say one part of the linkage here, when you apply the torque on one of this will simply yield to the torque. It cannot transmit the torque to the other linkage. So, in a constraint or in a joint between two bodies, there is a possibility to transmit both forces and torque, but if it is a revolute joint, the torque cannot be transmitted, because the torque, whatever is given, is that this particular linkage will yield to this, so torque cannot be transmitted to this. So only force can be transmitted. So if I give an example to this, it may not be easy to understand or say that only forces can be transmitted, why not the torque? Okay, let me put it like this. I have a spanner. You have a nut, the nut or bolt head is there. What I do is I use a spanner to loosen or tighten that. Okay, that will be like this. So what you do is you apply a force here. When you apply a force, that will either tighten or loosen the bolt. Imagine that I modify the spanner like this. I cut here, introduce a revolute joint here. I introduce a revolute joint, coming with a new idea. So if I introduce a revolute joint here, if I apply a force, at least by intuition can you think that this bolt is going to get tightened? No. Why? It is because whatever moment created by this force will be used for turning this part of the linkage, but it will not be transmitted to this. So you can say that the property of a revolute joint is that it can transmit only forces across this, but not moments. That is why here, when you think of an interaction of forces and moments between the linkage 3 and 4, there is a revolute joint here. So the revolute joint will transmit only the forces through it, not moment. Suppose there is a force acting on here, which can create a moment, but that cannot be transmitted through the revolute joint to 4. So when I draw the free body diagram, since the connection between the linkage 3 and 4 is a revolute joint, only forces can be transmitted through that. That is why I am drawing this, indicating that there is a force, not a moment. But as I told you, if you are taking two bodies, like my hand is one body and this is this thing, I may be able to apply the force and the moment, but that should not be a simple revolute joint. In simple revolute joint, only forces can be transmitted across this. That is the same reason or logic I use it here for linkage 3. Either side of the linkage 3 there is a revolute joint. So through the revolute joint, that is the interaction of between 2 and 3, there can be only forces transmitted. So that is why I say there is a force. The interaction between 3 and 4, that is again through the revolute joint. That's why I say there can be only forces acting on linkage 3. You have any doubt? This is simple, but if you skip this, you may be confused later. So the idea is, wherever revolute joint is there, like here, only forces can be transmitted, not moments. Okay? Then, when you are trying to draw the free body diagram and try to solve a problem in mechanics, problem in statics, what you need to ask is, first of all, whether that problem can be solved. Not all the problems in statics is solvable. Some problems which look simple cannot be solved. So, first thing is to determine, first identify, see whether this problem can be solved, in the sense that whether all the forces acting on this can be determined, that is in both magnitude and direction of the forces acting on this can be determined. Then you can say this problem is solvable. There are situations where the problem cannot be solved. So such problems are called statically indeterminate problem. Statically indeterminate problem. Whether statically indeterminate problem is a very complex problem is it a very complex problem that cannot be solved by anybody? You have to look for a very complex situation. Not necessary. This chair, if you take, what are the reactions in each leg of the chair? Cannot be found out. You have learnt engineering mechanics, but with that all the principles, can you determine the 4 reactions that are coming out of the chair? It is not possible. Why? It is because you have to find out, what is the number of unknowns and number of equations that are available. Okay? So what is a statically indeterminate problem? You have to find out the number of unknowns you have to find out the number of equations available. Equations means number of equations for equilibrium. So if the number of unknowns is greater than the number of equations, you cannot solve. Simple algebraic thing. If I have 2 unknowns and I have 2 equations, I can solve. 2 unknowns, 1 equation, I cannot solve. Same thing, the number of equations or number of equilibrium equations and number of unknowns that you have to see. Now here, you take the examples of the chair, example of a chair here. You have the weight of the chair is a force and you have 4 reactions. Now, as we know that all the forces, the reaction forces are to be vertical, weight is also vertical. So what you have is system of parallel forces in space. You have force, that is the weight, that is vertically down. You have reactions, all of them are vertical. So if you consider this, you have parallel forces. So system of parallel forces in space. For a system of parallel forces in space, number of equations available, equilibrium equations available is 3. We have 3 equations. One equation which is for the net force is to be 0 when a body will be in equilibrium. For a static equilibrium, the net force should be 0 and net moment should be 0. So you will have one equation which says that the net forces should be 0. That is the sum of 4 reactions plus the weight should algebraically, if we add, it should be 0. That is one equation. The net moment should be 0, so that you take a moment about x-axis and y-axis. So you will have additional 2 equations. So the number of equations in a system of forces in parallel forces in space is 3. But here in the chair problem, we have 4 legs. Their directions of these forces are known because they are parallel, mean they have to be in vertical direction. But what about their magnitudes? None of their magnitudes are known. So you have 4 unknowns. So in the simple chair problem, the 4-legged chair problem, you have 4 unknowns. That is, the magnitude of the forces are unknown, but we have only 3 equations. This is statically indeterminate problem. Nobody can say what are the exact reactions that will be acting on this. So how else can find out? Go to the next level. Don't go for a calculation. Go for a next level of knowledge, that is a measurement. If you use 4 sensors on 4 legs, they will tell you what are the forces acting at this instant. But it is not a unique value which we can say that the next time also it will be the same force will come. But I can make this as a determinate problem by cutting one of the legs. If I cut one of the legs, it will fall down. But if you put the leg, you have a 3-legged chairs are there. If you have 3 legs, like you have the tripod there, you have 3-legged tripod, 3 legs are there, then the number of unknowns there will be 3 magnitudes. Then you have 3 equations that is uniquely you can determine what are the forces which are acting. So a simple 4-legged chair itself, you cannot find out what is the forces which are acting on it. You cannot calculate it. You can only make a measurement and do that. Right? So here when you are trying to solve a problem in statics, you have to first have an idea whether this is solvable. If it is an unsolvable thing, if you keep breaking your head, there is no use. So you have to see that it is solvable. You have to know, first calculate, number of unknowns in this. If the number of unknowns exceeds the equilibrium equations, number of equations for equilibrium, it is not solvable. Now this is a planar problem. Planar problem, you have three equations. Okay, so three equations, only with three unknowns this is solvable. What is the general case of forces in space? If the forces here in this case I have said there are parallel forces, if the forces are inclined, for example, I will modify the same problem like this. Now I apply a force in addition to its weight, I am applying an additional force. Now the system is this is in equilibrium. Okay, so in this case, if you assume there is a friction on the floor, there is a friction is there between the floor and this, then what are the forces it will be acting? What is the directions there? It may be at an inclined position. So they are no longer system of parallel forces, they can be at inclined, because net force I am acting is weight plus what I am applying. So that is at an angle. So reactions can be coming from the legs at a different angle. So it is a problem of general system of forces in space. So you have 6 equations. You have 6 equations. So 6 unknowns you can find out. There again, here how many unknowns are there? You will have 8 unknowns, because magnitude and the direction of all the reactions are not known. So you have 8 unknowns, it is not possible. But if it is a 3-legged chair, it is possible. So if statically if a chair is to be in equilibrium position, 3 legs are sufficient. So the 4th leg is a redundant constraint that we are giving. Okay. Now coming here, you have any questions? So let me rub off these things. Now you see here this particular free body diagram, there is a force P, that is applied force, its both magnitude and direction must be given. So this is fully known. Here F14 is the reaction between the piston and the surface, which I have said that there is no friction, therefore it must be acting normal. So this direction is known, magnitude is unknown. So only you don't have the magnitude, direction is known. So what you do is, you simply draw a line, don't put the arrow, that means this force, direction is known, that means it is along this line, either it can be vertically up or down, but we do not know the magnitude. Okay. What about this F34? As we have said that it is only force can come. What is the direction of it? What direction it will come? Through the revolute joint, we have said that only force can transmit. But is there any particular direction in which the force can be transmitted? Need not be. The force can be transmitted in any direction through the revolute joint. Okay. So if you take a revolute joint here like this, if I apply a force, same direction force will be transmitted to the other linkage. So through the pin it will be transmitted exactly. Suppose I apply the force at an angle, the same angle it will be transmitted. So that revolute joint can only transmit force, but it can transmit force in any direction. It need not be in one direction. Okay. So in that case, this F34, I do not know the magnitude and direction. So if I don't know the magnitude and direction, put a wavy sign. If I draw the wavy sign, it indicates I do not know both the magnitude and direction of it. Now, how many unknowns are there? One unknown is the magnitude of F14. You have the magnitude and direction of both F34 is not known. So we have three unknowns. For a planar problem or system of forces in a plane, we have three equations. Two moment equation and one force equation. So you will have three equations, three unknowns. This is solvable. Okay? But can we solve it now? Not now. You are wait. You have to see whether any other clue is we can get. Now here, because there is a revolute joint, as I told you, revolute joint can transmit force, but in any direction, F43, both magnitude and direction, F23, both magnitude and direction is not known. But there is a special feature of this particular linkage 3. What is the special feature of this? Number of forces acting on it is only 2. So this member is called a 2-force member. This linkage 3 is in equilibrium under the action of two forces. So if two forces are to be in equilibrium, what are the conditions? What are the conditions and what prescribes that condition? Yeah, it is all known to you. Collinear, opposite and equal in magnitude. Three conditions, that is what is specified as a law of equilibrium. The most fundamental of all this. Law of equilibrium, which says that if two forces are to be in equilibrium, they must be equal in magnitude, opposite in direction, collinear in action. So three conditions are to be met. So this is a two-force member. If this member is to be in equilibrium, according to the law of equilibrium, these two forces, that is F23 and F43, must be equal in magnitude, opposite in direction, collinear in action. Okay? So collinear in action means that force F43 and F23 must be along this direction of this, through the centers it must pass, because if I break it somewhere here, still if you see that, if I break it and try to get the equation, you will see the forces are being transmitted through that. So the forces must be transmitted along the axis of this link. So they must be along this direction. So when I say this two-force member, the direction of F43 and F23 are along the same line, not just like that. I am saying that it is because of the law of equilibrium. When two forces are in equilibrium, when a member is there which is acted upon by two forces and it is in equilibrium, these two forces must be collinear. They must be equal in magnitude. It must be in opposite direction. So we do not know whether these forces are compressive in nature or they are tensile in nature. Whether they may be try to compress the link or may try to expand the link, we do not know right now. But what we know is these two forces must be along this line, along the axis of the link. Having this information, if you come back to this free body diagram, which is F34 is nothing but the opposite of this, so the direction is now known, no longer it is a unknown, direction of this is unknown, but the direction is known. Now, if you look at it, this is a 3/4 member, which is a planar this thing. So we can evoke theorem of 3 forces to solve it. Theorem of 3 forces says that if the 3 forces are to be in equilibrium, 3 conditions. What are 3 conditions? They must be concurrent, coplanar, and their free vectors must form a closed polygon. So, evoke the theorem of 3 forces to solve this. So, they must be concurrent. So, I can extend this here, extend this, they are meeting at this point. So, the third force F14 must be not acting here, must be acting here. So that these 3 forces are meeting at a point. I cannot write somewhere in the middle, I cannot do anywhere, but I must say that this is passing through in a place where the other 2 are intersecting. This also should go on intersect. So that condition is met. It must be planar. We are talking about a planar problem. It must be coplanar. The third condition is that when you draw this, they must free vectors, they must form a closed triangle. So I draw the P. I know the direction of F34. So this is P, this is F34, and draw this. So this is the triangle. So this triangle will help me to determine the other unknowns, the magnitudes, and the specific direction I can find out. F34 is this, this is F14. Now how the arrows should be drawn? It must form a closed triangle. So this is the starting point, you are proceeding to P. So starting point of the other vector, go, and this will be your head. Then this is the starting point of the other vector, this is your. So arrows must be specifically drawn like this. So wherever you start, you must go along the direction of vector and you have to come back to the same point. That means graphically when you are adding all these vectors, the net is 0. Okay? So you are drawing this, you get a closed the triangle, so that means it is 0. So it now with this, we can say what is F34, direction of F34. If you are using a graphical means, you can just scale this properly, take this measurement, that will tell you what is the magnitude of it. Then F14 is acting like this, acting upwards, the reaction from that is coming upwards. Okay, so now this particular thing is complete. You have any doubt? I have completed it. I have not completed on my own. I have completed using all the principles of engineering mechanics. So, if you look at it, if you take the argument of an advocate or a lawyer in the court, If you go and present your case in the court, you cannot say that, sir, this is good and this is bad, like that. You have to always say that according to this section of this law, this is permitted, or according to this section of the law, this is violated. So a good engineering report also must be like, you have to keep all this, you have to bring in all these laws and all these things, and you have to say that according to this is permitted, according to this I am proceeding. I should not be writing, this is a closed triangle, I do this. No, we are skipping lot of steps. If you take a good research papers also, research paper will not say that this is how it should be. It will always say according to the previous research or according to this principle, this is like this. Okay? Not on your own you are supposed to write. Okay? So, this is the way you have to argue and get this thing. So, this is so you have finished the free body diagram of this piston. Since now you know that F3-4, F4-3 are just action and reaction, so they are equal and opposite. So now I can say that this is this. Of course, using the law of equilibrium, you know that this must be like this. So we have completed the free body diagram of the two of the links which are critical. Now we have to see. If you have a doubt, you can pause me. Otherwise, I will proceed to linkage 2, where if you take a linkage 2, you know that there is an external torque which is acting, that you have to apply, that is what you are supposed to determine. Then what is acting on this is now F23 will be acting on this direction. So this is like this, so it should be opposite. This must be F32. So that is acting on this. Here what you have is a hinge, that is a revolute joint. The revolute joint can apply the force. Only force can be transmitted by 1 on this, but this F1, 2, both magnitude and the direction is not known. Wherever revolute joint is there, it can transmit force in any direction. You do not know the direction, both of this. Now you look at this particular body, there is a force and a torque. So you combine this force and the torque. I think you have to go back to the principles of the torque or a moment. Torque and a moment in couple, they are one and the same. Okay, they can be used in various circumstances according to their convenience, but they are the same. They will always have two parallel forces acting in opposite direction, but they are not collinear. They will be at an offset. So you have a torque here. What is the property of the torque? Torque is a torque or a couple or moment. Okay, torque bar couple bar moment are the same. They will be involving two forces of equal magnitude, but there will be an offset. So the moment of the couple is given by Fa. Moment of the couple is given by Fa. So it is a free vector. The torque or couple or this thing is called the free vector. What is a free vector? We have used the term free vector here. The free vectors must form a closed triangle. Free vector means The vector can be moved anywhere freely. That is called a free vector. So when it comes to the vector, I can quickly say the three types of vectors. You know, these are the things that I have learned from Sudhakar sir. So he used to give a lot of inputs. So three types of vectors are there. One is, so if you take types of vectors, one is a bound vector, the other one is a sliding vector, other one is a free vector. What are the three types of vectors? So how to define them? If a vector is bound, it cannot be moved. The point of application is fixed, so you cannot move anywhere. This is the bound vector, you cannot move. If it is a sliding vector, the vector can be moved along the line, along this direction it can be moved. It is permitted to move along this direction, along the line of action. This can be here, it can be here, it can be here. All of them are treated as same. So the vector, when it is permitted to move along its line of action, it is called a sliding vector. The vector which is not permitted to move from its point of application, it is called a bound vector. The vector which can be moved anywhere is called a free vector. Couple is a free vector. That means that it can be moved. There is no point of application. So if the couple or the torque which is having the direction like this, perpendicular to the plane, it can be here, it can be moved here, or it can be acting here. Anywhere you move it, it is safe. It matters nothing. There is no issue about it because couple is a free vector. So I can move this torque or the couple here. Then what it causes is a couple and a force. You can combine a force and a couple. Okay? When a force is transmitted or moved parallel to itself, it can yield a force and a couple. If you combine a force and couple, you will get a force parallel to itself shifted by a distance. So the equivalent of this two, I can find out which is acting along this direction. Okay, so I will go in detail next class. So it must be something like this. So your reaction must be like this, and these two are going to produce a couple. That couple, opposite ends of the couple is the torque that you have to give it from outside to hold it. Okay, so we will close it. We will go in detail about that particular thing in the next class.